Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp of the Limp, and I've got a special treat for you all today. This is Trench Club Legacy. This is by the same people who are doing Aces and Armor that currently is on Kickstarter. It's the World War II version of what I'm getting ready to show you here. This is the World War I version, and this has already been out. It had missed my radar, but in my coverage of Aces and Armor, I stumbled upon Trench Club and found out about it and expressed interest in it, and they were nice enough to send me a copy of their Legacy version just for me to try out. They didn't ask me to film it or do a review or anything like that, but it's what I do. It's what I do. I mean, I get the game I like. I gotta film it. I gotta put it in front of the camera. So this is a Legacy game, which means it's going to change as we play it. There's going to be new components, there's going to be new pieces, new rules, new everything going on. We have 4 factions, possibly 5. I do believe the Americans come in. I mentioned this previously in a previous video, but this is going to have spoilers. I'm not hiding anything. So if you don't want the Legacy components spoiled, don't watch. Because I'm showing it all. We're bearing all. We're going crazy. Full Monty here. It's all coming out. But we got the British. We got the French. We got the Germans. And we got the Austrians down over here. Basically, you got the Central Powers in gray and dark gray. And the greenish colors are the, what they call it, Triple Entente or Entente, whatever. The good guys and the bad guys. Green and gray are the colors for the factions. Now, just to pan it up a little bit, you can see the map is actually quite big. It is mounted. It is double-sided. I showed this in my Pop the Top and letting you guys see all the components. So we're not going to go through all the components of the game, but do understand that they're nice. I really like the inclusion of these little plastic fort pieces. I just think they're neater than hell, and they make the game board look so cool. So essentially what I'm going to do is basically just kind of walk you through how I'm setting up the campaign. We're going to do a little bit of the campaign, and I've done everything as far as their rules go with the exception of just a few tiny minor tweaks to make it more me and to make it easier to flow and all that good stuff. One of the things the game has is a mounted board. And it has this map of Europe on it, and you're supposed to put stickers on it. This keeps track of the territory that each faction gains, your shame, which is just slightly off my scanner over here, and your research track. All right, so there's a mounted piece for this, and it's actually double-sided, I think, so you can kind of use it twice if you want to. But I don't like messing up game components, and I know it's not messing up. It's the way it's designed to be played. It is what it is. I don't mind screwing up a piece of paper because I can throw this away and print off another one. So that's essentially what I'm going to do. And then for the tracks over here, for research or shame, I can just write on the back, you know, what's going on and what territories they have. I can just write that in there so I don't have to worry about the stickers, and I can preserve all the components of the game so it can be redone if I decide. I mean, I know I probably won't. You know, it's not like I'm going to play through the campaign multiple times, but, you know, you got to do what you got to do. This, for me, is enough to make it to where it's not going to affect any of the components. Now, if I come across stuff later, we'll deal with that as it pops up. So let's beam down here to a little bit closer, and I'll show you guys some more of the Legacy stuff. There is a huge deck of cards, and it starts with this little one right here. It says 0. When you're ready to start the Legacy campaign, that's when you're going to flip this over, and it starts telling you what to do. And this is basically the cards that you're going to need to draw out. They're all in this deck, and then if there's any like faction-specific cards, they're going to go here. Okay, so I've already drawn out these cards. Actually, the one thing I didn't draw out was I forgot to grab that. That is the newspaper clipping. We've got this little newspaper thing. I won't flip it over the whole way, but let me cut this open. We'll grab A. All right, so A basically just says assassination of heir of Austria's throne. So the Archduke Francis Ferdinand getting killed. And then this goes over basically the historical blurb. So I think this is going to tell us how the war plays out. And we're going to draw different ones of these little newspaper cards depending on how things play out. I will show those as we go, but we already know, or you should know, how World War I started. So we'll set that to the side and we'll focus on the rest of these cards here. They are color coded, right? And that tells us a few things. So these are the other cards. Now, since I am doing this solo freehand, that means I get to see all the cards. It is what it is. This one, we have to leave face down, and I have left face down, and turn around when a player declares war, because war has not been declared yet. We get to do that in the first scenario. That's so cool. All right, and I'm decidedly the faction that I'm going to control is going to be the bad guys. I'm going to go with the central, because usually I pick the good guys, so I'm like, okay, I'll pick the bad guys this time. And I'm going to use the autama. They do have an autama for this game to kind of make choices for the AI, and I'm going to go with that and use that to make choices for them. Might have to make a judgment call here or there, but I will make the choices here. Autama will make the choices here. This tells us what map we're on. So we're on winter map, and then what forces are involved in the battle and what units they're going to have. So we've got transport trucks, infantry, mounted infantry, heavy infantry, field gun howitzer, depending on what your faction has, and heavy mortar. It says you can use the anti-aircraft as a proxy for a second troop truck, because each faction only has one of these little transport trucks. Come on, focus. Focus. Why is my camera not focused? There it is. Each faction only has one of these little trucks, but instead I went with this little doohickey. There are extra of these little clips that can take little tokens, and they represent all the different extra minis. So if you ever run out of a specific type of mini, there are little tokens that you can put in these clips to represent that unit. And I wanted to stick with these. That way I know for sure what the thing is and I don't get it confused. So I've got that. So we've got a couple of trucks. We have a single infantry. We have one mounted infantry, so it's just infantry on cavalry, which is different. It is different. Where does it say that? There's a rules card in here somewhere. I'm going to find the rules card. It's at the bottom here. All right, so this, you see, 4 rules. It's backed in red, so this tells us it's changing a few things. The game starts in peacetime. During peace, units may move freely without considering the enemy contact rule. Declare war. If a player announces an attack or conquers a fort, the player declared war and peace ends. So remember, these are the forts, and they give you like victory points and money, and you want to capture these, right? All these little fort minis across the board, but you can't capture one until you're ready to declare war, right? So you got to make sure your pieces are in the right place. And this is me guessing, but I think I'm right here. Considering there is shame in this game, there's negative points for doing bad stuff in war. I'm going to guess that starting a world war is probably going to get you a shame point. And I'm going to play these guys evil. So we're not even going to worry about shame. We're going balls out. We're going to hit everything. Yeah, capture the forts, and then war, follow normal rules, which we'll get into with the game. But we do have that little addendum for our cavalry. Cavalry normally have different stats, but for this game only, they're going to have these stats. And that has to do with their levels of veterancy. So if they're basic, it's 4 or under, 6 or under at yellow, and 8 or under at red, which is the highest level of veterancy that they can get. So like I said, we got our cavalry, infantry, we have heavy machine guns. All right, come on, focus in here. All right, a little heavy machine gun there. And then this is a field gun that they have, and then the heavy mortar. All right, so all those different units. Now with this game, tanks had not been invented yet. There are tanks in the game. There's a lot of tanks in the game, but you can't bring them out just yet. They have to be invented first. And there is a research track. Remember, like I said, we got a little research track over here. And each one of the different factions are going to go down these tracks. So you're going to have aircraft, improved infantry, something to do with artillery, and then tanks. So I don't know how that's going to play out. Research is yet to be seen, but we will, deal with that as it comes up. Now, besides the new rules and those two things, we do have a briefing for each side, and I forget which is which. We'll just read them and see which is which. All right. We can launch a surprise attack on France. So, all right, so this is central, guys, here. From the north and bypass the defensive lines, follow the Schlieffen plan you have been trained for. There's a bad German accent, but it is what it is. Deal with it. Get into a favorable position and provoke an attack or declare war yourself when the opportunity presents. For solo players, during peacetime, the autama will flip a coin every round starting from round 2. So not on round 1, starting round 2. On heads, the autama just moves. On tails, the autama will attack. And I think it's going to be very similar for France and England. Yeah, get in a favorable position and attack, because the Germans are coming. The nasty Germans are coming. But, like I said, we do have this card. When a player declares war, this card gets flipped. We can't flip that one just yet, but we will be flipping it. And I'm going to keep track of these cards, keep them tucked over to the side. That way we can keep track of all of our legacy components. Besides that, there is the legacy-specific rulebook. I touched on that earlier, but it explains some of the stuff that I talked about, like the big map here. Research. Officers become a thing later, so you'll have specific officer units that maybe give you certain types of bonuses. See, this guy, reinforcements. If your team lost the last 2 battles, start the next battle with an additional howitzer. Yeah, well, you definitely don't want to lose that. And then it goes into the solo campaign here. The autama does not use officers, but the autama will kind of adjust its difficulty. So if it wins a battle, it starts getting easier. If it loses a battle, it starts getting harder. So here it's basically saying that you'll add points or just subtract points depending on whether they won, whether they lost. We are starting at 0, which is standard, so they don't get to add anything. I don't get to add anything. It's just basic. Now, here's the thing that throws me. It says the autama will never start with any troop transport trucks. But that would take away 4 transport units. And in a way, I feel like that gives me an edge, because I will be able to load up units and race across the board quicker than they can. Maybe I'll let them have the troop transport trucks for this first battle and make some judgment calls for them and just let them unload. I don't know. I'll have to look at that. And I think I'm going to scan this and print it out, or scan the little reminder sheet there on the back and print that out. Probably the autama thing, because this is the solo action priority. So for foot soldiers or close combat units or long range units, this is probably why they're saying they don't get trucks, because they've got what it will do if it's these types of units, but it doesn't have anything for trucks. We're not going to start it in this video. So like I said, I'll probably think on this a little bit and maybe give them the trucks on this first turn. We'll set them up and then I'll make the call before we start the battle. But like I said, this is just the setup. This is just the setup to get us going. All right, so this isn't all the map, but we'll show you the rest of it later on. So what I did is I decided for this first mission to help give me a little variety for setup, I'm not going to do it exactly the way that it says to do in the rule book, because the rule book's completely random and you could have units all over the board. That's kind of organized chaos, but I thought for this specific battle that I'd have them coming in from the sides, because it didn't make sense to me to have, some German units over here and some British units over here and some Austrian units. No. So I was like, okay, well, Britain's over there, Germany's over there, Austria's down over here, and France is down over here. So they're each coming in from their respective corners. But to give a little variance, I gave each of them 2 of these tokens, right? And these tokens tell you where on the board you can set up. So for England, they got 3 and 2. Let's see, where is 3 and 2? There's 2 and here's 3. So these 2 hexes are where they have to set up their units. So of the 3 spots that they could have started, I just randomly selected 2 and gave it to them. That way I didn't know for sure where they were going to spawn. Same thing with the French. They got 6 and 4, which 4 is way over here on the edge of the map, and 6 is where? I don't even see 6. Oh, 6 is way at the bottom of the map. So they're way tucked down in the corner. It's going to be a minute before they get stuck in. I did the same with my own units. 10 and 9. 9 is here. 10 is here. So the German unit's going to be pretty close to each other. It'll be easy for them to get rolling. And for the Austrian units, 11 and 12. Let's see. Where's 11 and 12 is way back in the corner. And I don't see 11. Am I covering it? Yeah, I am covering it. All right, so they're pretty close to getting stuck in right off the bat. So I expect the Austrians to come in. But we've got some forts we want to take control of right off the bat. They've got some forts they want to take control of. But again, that starts the battle. That starts the battle. Do we want to start the battle, or do we want to position our units? Because in this game, you don't just take a fort. You can't just move into it from anywhere. You have to move into it specifically from one of its side hexes. So to show you, if this little Austrian infantry here wanted to take control of this fort, he couldn't come in from this front, like where the gun slit is. No. He has to be at one of the 2 sides, right? So either of the 2 side hexes, and he has to be there a turn before he captures it, right? So he has to move adjacent to it, stop, or already be there, and then on his next movement phase, then he can move in and he captures it. And the really interesting part about this game is there's no fighting from forts, right? You could fight from factories in Aces and Armor. Here you can't. So if you have units in a fort and an enemy unit comes in and gets prepared, they can take over that fort from you and they wipe out all the units that are already in there. I'll explain it further when we get into the game, but basically you're not going to be fighting from within the forts. You'll capture them and move on, or you'll try to defend them from the outside. You're not going to have a bunch of units in there. You might send back some of your damaged units to get repaired or something like that, or new purchase units will go to forts that you own. But you're not going to be leaving units in the fort. They're going to be getting out and getting stuck in. And I think they kind of made that choice for a good reason. If the forts were too good defensively, it really would turn into World War I with both sides trying to just hunker down in the fort and make the enemy come to them where they had an advantage. And this way, it makes it to where the units are trapped and pinned in. And if you allow the enemy to close in on you, they can wipe out a huge number of units if you've got them all in the same fort. But you guys will see how that plays. You'll see how that plays when we get into it. We've got our setup. We've got everything. We're prepared to start. So here's what I'm going to do. For our next video, I will have positioned all the units in their respective hexes next to or on these little spots that they can deploy to. So we'll all be set up and ready to go. The autama will be set up and ready to go. And I'll have to make that judgment call on whether or not I'm going to give them the trucks. Like I said, I might just give it to them because the trucks are such a huge advantage. Up to 4 units of a certain type can be loaded into a single truck. And that truck can just scoot the hell up the road and make some distance. Let's see. How fast can trucks move? Trucks have 4 movement hexes. Look at this. 4, right? Infantry only move 2. Mounted infantry move 3. So a truck can really haul butt. And that really makes a difference for some of these heavier units like heavy infantry. That's 2 movement points. Heavy mortars, that's only 1 movement point. So being able to be drug along can really give them a boom. Or is that only field guns? I have to check to make sure, but there is just specific type of units. I think heavy mortars are included, but we'll double check that before we get started in our game. All right, but we're all set. You guys stay tuned. I will have the first video up where we get started with a little battle, and we'll see who is going to initiate the war and who wins the opening skirmish between Britain, France, Germany, and Austria. All right, that's going to be it for me. You guys take care, and I will catch you in the next one.